The dust of the Oregon Trail swirled around Olivia Evans as she collapsed, her knees hitting the hard, packed earth with a finality that matched the emptiness in her stomach. 3 days without food, 5 days with only sips of murky water, and now her body was finally surrendering to the harsh reality of the western frontier in 1862. Her hands trembled as she tried to push herself back up, but her arms gave way beneath her. The wagon train had left her behind after typhoid took her parents 2 weeks ago. The wagon master had been kind enough to give her supplies, but not kind enough to slow the pace for a 19-year-old woman traveling alone. Now those supplies were gone, stolen by a desperate fellow traveler in the night. Olivia pressed her forehead to the cool dirt. Perhaps this was better. Perhaps joining her parents in whatever lay beyond this life would be a mercy. The sun beat down mercilessly, and she could feel consciousness slipping away when the ground beneath her cheek began to vibrate, hoofbeats. Coming closer, she summoned what little strength remained to turn her head. Through the haze of her vision, she made out the silhouette of a rider approaching, backlit by the setting sun. The figure dismounted and approached cautiously. Miss, can you hear me?" The voice was deep, concerned. Strong hands gently turned her over, and Olivia found herself looking up into the most startlingly blue eyes she'd ever seen, set in a sun-weathered face beneath a worn leather hat. "Water," she managed to croak. Without hesitation, the stranger brought a canteen to her cracked lips. "Small sips," he instructed, his voice firm but kind. "Too much at once will make you sick." Olivia obeyed, feeling the cool liquid bring her parched throat back to life. As her vision cleared, she took in more details of her rescuer. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sandy brown hair and a neatly trimmed beard. He couldn't have been more than 25 or 26. "I'm Finn Turner," he said, helping her sit up slowly. "Ranch hand at the Rockingham, about 15 miles east of here." "Olivia Evans," she whispered. "My parents and I were headed to Oregon. They didn't make it. The wagon train couldn't wait." Finn's expression darkened with concern. "You've been out here alone. How long since you've eaten?" 3 days, maybe 4. The admission made her suddenly aware of the hollow ache in her stomach again. Without another word, Finn reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside was jerky and hardtack. "Eat slowly," he cautioned, offering her a small piece of the dried meat. As Olivia chewed, savoring the salty, tough jerky like it was the finest meal, Finn surveyed their surroundings. The trail stretched empty in both directions, and the sun was sinking fast toward the horizon. "There's no way you can make it to Oregon on your own," he said finally. "And I can't leave you out here to die." "I have nothing to offer in return for help," Olivia admitted, shame coloring her words. "Everything I had was stolen." Finn's expression softened. "I'm not asking for payment, Miss Evans, but we need to get you somewhere safe. The nearest town is Junction City, about 30 miles west. My ranch is closer," but he hesitated, clearly weighing propriety against practicality. "I don't think I can make it 30 miles, Olivia admitted. Finn nodded, decision made. "Then I'll take you to the Rockingham, Mrs. Mathers, the owner's wife, will help get you back on your feet. After that, we can figure out your next steps." Hope flickered in Olivia's chest for the first time in days. "Thank you, Mr. Turner." "Just Finn," he replied with a slight smile that transformed his serious face. "Can you stand?" With his help, Olivia attempted to rise, but her legs buckled immediately. Finn caught her before she hit the ground. "I'm sorry," she whispered, mortified at her weakness. "Nothing to apologize for." Without further discussion, he lifted her into his arms as if she weighed nothing at all. Olivia was acutely aware of his strength, the steady beat of his heart against her side as he carried her to his horse. "This is Duke," Finn said, nodding toward the sturdy chestnut gelding. "He's strong enough to carry us both." Mounting with Olivia in his arms was a feat of skill that spoke to years in the saddle. He settled her in front of him, one arm securely around her waist as he took the reins with his free hand. "It's about 4 hours' ride," he explained. "Try to rest if you can." As Duke set off at a steady walk, Olivia found herself leaning back against Finn's chest, his solid presence behind her the first true safety she'd felt since her parents fell ill. The rhythm of the horse's gait and the warmth of Finn's body soon lulled her into an exhausted sleep. When she woke, stars speckled the vast prairie sky above them. Finn had draped his jacket around her shoulders at some point, and the night air carried a chill that made her grateful for the warmth. "You're awake," Finn observed. "How are you feeling?" "A little stronger," Olivia answered honestly. The water and small amount of food had helped, though she knew she was still dangerously weak. "Good, we're about halfway there. Would you like some more water?" She nodded, and he passed her the canteen. As she drank, Olivia felt his eyes on her. "If you don't mind me asking," Finn said carefully, "what made your family decide to head west?" "My father was a schoolteacher in Pennsylvania. After my mother's brother wrote about the opportunities in Oregon, my father thought we could start fresh, maybe open a school of our own." The memory of her father's enthusiasm brought a lump to her throat. He was always chasing a better life for us. "And now," Olivia stared into the darkness, "now I don't know, I have no family left, no money. No skills except reading and writing and the little my mother taught me about keeping house." "Those are valuable skills out here," Finn said. "Schools are scarce, and there are plenty of ranch hands and miners who'd pay good money to learn their letters." The thought had never occurred to her. "You think I could teach? I know you could. Junction City doesn't have a proper school yet, just a preacher who holds lessons when he can." For the first time since her parents' deaths, Olivia felt a flicker of possibility, but reality quickly dampened it. "I'd need somewhere to live, supplies." "Books, one step at a time," Finn advised. "First, we get you healthy again." They rode in companionable silence for a while. Olivia found herself studying Finn's hands on the reins, strong, capable hands marked with calluses and small scars that told stories of hard work. "How long have you been at the Rockingham?" she asked. "Almost 7 years now. Came west when I was 18, worked odd jobs until Mr. Mathers hired me. He's a fair man, taught me everything I know about ranching." "No family of your own?" Finn was quiet for a moment. "My pa died in the war with Mexico. Ma raised me and my sisters until fever took her when I was 16. My sisters married and stayed back east." "I'm sorry," Olivia said softly. "It was a long time ago." His voice held no self-pity, just simple acceptance of life's harsh realities. "The Mathers have been like family to me since." As Duke crested a small rise, Finn pointed ahead. "See those lights? That's the ranch." In the distance, Olivia could make out the warm glow of lanterns. The sight of human habitation after days alone on the trail brought unexpected tears to her eyes. She quickly wiped them away, but not before Finn noticed. "It's all right," he said gently. "You've been through more than most could handle." They approached a collection of buildings, a large main house, a bunkhouse, stables, and various outbuildings. As they rode into the yard, a door opened, spilling golden lamplight onto the packed earth. "Finn, that you?" called a woman's voice. "Yes, Mrs. Mathers." "And I've brought someone who needs help." A stout woman in her 50s hurried toward them, wiping her hands on her apron. Her gray-streaked hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her face, though lined with age, was kind and alert. "Good heavens, what's this?" she exclaimed as Finn dismounted and carefully lifted Olivia down, found her collapsed on the trail. "Wagon train left her behind after her parents died. She's been without food for days." Mrs. Mathers's expression softened with compassion. "You poor dear, bring her inside, Finn, quickly now." Finn carried Olivia into the warmth of the main house, where a fire crackled in the stone hearth. The room smelled of fresh bread and coffee, making Olivia's empty stomach clench painfully. "Put her in the spare room," Mrs. Mathers directed. "I'll heat some broth. She'll need to eat light at first." Finn carried Olivia through to a small but neat bedroom and gently laid her on a real bed, the first she'd felt in months after sleeping in wagons and on the ground. The softness beneath her was almost overwhelming. "Thank you," she whispered, looking up at him. "I would have died out there if not for you. Something flickered in his blue eyes, something that made her heart skip strangely. Anyone would have done the same. No, Olivia said with certainty. Not anyone. Finn seemed about to say more when Mrs. Mathers bustled in with a steaming mug. Out with you now, Finn Turner. Let the girl have some privacy while I help her clean up and change. With a respectful nod, Finn backed out of the room. Mrs. Mathers helped Olivia sit up and held the mug of broth to her lips. Small sips, dear. Your stomach needs to remember what food is. The broth was simple but delicious chicken, herbs, and vegetables. Each sip seemed to bring life back to Olivia's body. Finn's a good man, Mrs. Mathers commented as she helped Olivia remove her filthy traveling clothes. Never seen him bring home a stray before, though. I'm not a stray, Olivia protested weakly. Mrs. Mathers chuckled. No offense meant, dear, just an expression. Now let's get you into something clean. By the time Mrs. Mathers had helped her wash and change into a borrowed nightgown, Olivia was barely conscious. The older woman tucked her into bed with maternal efficiency. Rest now. Everything looks brighter in the morning. As sleep claimed her, Olivia's last thoughts were of blue eyes and strong arms carrying her to safety. The next morning, Olivia woke to sunlight streaming through cotton curtains. For a moment, disoriented, she thought she was back in Pennsylvania in her childhood bedroom. Then reality rushed back her parents, the trail collapsing and Finn Turner finding her. She pushed herself to a sitting position, surprised to find she had strength enough to do so. A clean dress had been laid out at the foot of the bed, along with undergarments and a hairbrush. Gingerly, Olivia stood. Her legs trembled but held her weight. After dressing in the borrowed clothes, which were a bit large but clean and whole, Olivia ventured out of the bedroom. She followed the sounds and smells of cooking to the kitchen, where Mrs. Mathers was rolling out dough on a floured table. Ah, you're up, the older woman exclaimed. How are you feeling? Better, thank you, though still a bit unsteady, to be expected. Sit down and I'll fix you some porridge with milk. You need to build your strength. As Olivia sat at the kitchen table, Mrs. Mathers set a bowl before her and poured fresh coffee. Where is Mr. Turner? Olivia asked, trying to sound casual. Mrs. Mathers gave her a knowing look. Finn's out with the cattle today. He and the other hands left at dawn. She sat across from Olivia. He was mighty concerned about you, though. Checked on you twice before he left. Warmth rose in Olivia's cheeks at the thought. She focused on her porridge, which tasted like heaven after days of starvation. He told me about your situation, Mrs. Mathers continued. Terrible thing, losing your parents that way. My Robert and I would like you to stay here until you're fully recovered. That's very kind, Olivia said, but I couldn't impose nonsense. It's no imposition. Winter's coming and the trail to Oregon will be impassable soon anyway. You can stay through spring if need be. The generosity overwhelmed Olivia. I'd like to earn my keep if I could. I can cook clean, so. We'll find plenty for you to do once you're stronger, Mrs. Mathers assured her. Robert's been after me to help with the accounts. My eyes aren't what they used to be, and if you can read and write well. I can, Olivia confirmed. My father made sure of it. Good. Then it's settled. Over the next week, Olivia gradually regained her strength. She began helping Mrs. Mathers, who insisted Olivia call her Helen with household tasks. She met Robert Mathers, a gruff but kind man who clearly adored his wife and ran the ranch with firm but fair leadership. Finn, however, she rarely saw. He left early each morning and returned late, taking his meals with the other hands in the bunkhouse. Occasionally, she'd catch glimpses of him crossing the yard or tending to horses in the corral, but he seemed to be deliberately keeping his distance. He's shy around ladies, Helen explained when Olivia finally worked up the courage to ask about his absence. Always has been. Give him time. 2 weeks after her arrival, Olivia was feeling almost herself again. Her clothes had been washed and mended, though they hung looser on her frame than before. She had taken over keeping the ranch ledgers, discovering she had a knack for numbers that pleased Robert greatly. One crisp afternoon, as Olivia hung laundry on the line behind the house, she heard hoofbeats approaching. Looking up, she saw Finn riding in, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the autumn sky. Her heart quickened as it always did at the sight of him. To her surprise, he dismounted and walked toward her instead of heading to the stables as usual. "Miss Evans," he greeted her, hat in hand. "You're looking well." "Thank you," she replied, suddenly conscious of her wind-blown hair and work-reddened hands. "I feel much better." Finn shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. "Mrs. Mathers mentioned you've been keeping the books." "Yes, Mr. Mathers seems pleased with my work. He says you have a head for figures." Finn paused, then blurted, "I was wondering if you might teach me to read better." The request caught Olivia off guard. "You can't read." "Some," he admitted, a flush creeping up his neck. "Enough to get by, but not well, not books or newspapers or such." "Of course I'll teach you," Olivia said without hesitation. "When would you like to start?" Relief washed over his features. "I have Sunday afternoons free, if that's not inconvenient." "Sunday would be perfect." A small smile lifted the corner of his mouth. "Thank you, Miss Evans." "Olivia, please," she insisted. "After all, you saved my life. I think that puts us on a first-name basis." His smile widened, transforming his face. "Olivia, then." That Sunday afternoon marked the beginning of a new routine. After church services in Junction City, which the entire ranch attended, Finn and Olivia would sit at the kitchen table with whatever books were available. Robert had a modest library, and Olivia discovered that while Finn could indeed read basic words, his education had been severely limited. "My pa taught me some before he died," Finn explained during their first lesson. "After that, there wasn't much time for learning." Olivia found him to be a dedicated student. His large, calloused fingers might fumble with a pencil, but his mind was quick and his memory excellent. Soon, their lessons expanded to include writing and arithmetic. As autumn deepened toward winter, these Sunday sessions became the highlight of Olivia's week. Finn began to open up more, sharing stories of his years on the ranch, his dreams of someday having land of his own. In turn, Olivia told him about her life back east, her parents, and the books she loved. One Sunday in late November, as snow fell gently outside the kitchen window, Finn surprised her by producing a small package wrapped in brown paper. "What's this?" Olivia asked, touching the package curiously. "Open it," he encouraged. Inside was a slim volume of poetry by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Olivia's eyes widened. "Finn, this is wonderful, but how?" "Ordered it from the Mercantile in Junction City. The owner's wife helped me pick it out." He looked uncharacteristically nervous. "You mentioned liking poetry and Mrs. Collins said this was good." Touched beyond words, Olivia opened the book and read aloud. "How do I love thee, let me count the ways." The words hung in the air between them. When she looked up, Finn was watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Thank you," she said softly. "It's the most thoughtful gift I've ever received." That evening marked a shift in their relationship. Their lessons continued, but now they were peppered with lingering glances and fingers that brushed accidentally when passing a book or pencil. Sometimes they would simply talk, the pretense of learning giving way to the pleasure of each other's company. Christmas brought a festive atmosphere to the ranch. Helen decorated the house with pine boughs and red ribbons, and the hands were invited to Christmas dinner in the main house. Olivia helped prepare the feast: roast goose, potatoes, vegetables from the root cellar, and pies made with preserved fruit. Finn appeared at the door of the kitchen that morning, dressed in his Sunday best, his hair neatly combed. "Mrs. Mathers said you might need help carrying things from the springhouse," he offered. "That would be wonderful," Olivia replied, wiping flour from her hands. Outside, the world was transformed by a fresh blanket of snow. Their breath formed clouds in the crisp air as they walked side by side to the small stone structure that served as the ranch's natural refrigerator. "I have something for you," Finn said suddenly. "For Christmas." "Another gift." The book was more than enough. "This is different." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small object, holding it out to her. In his palm lay a delicately carved wooden rose, small enough to fit in the palm of her hand but detailed enough to show every petal. I made it, he explained, watching her face carefully. Been working on it for weeks. Olivia took the rose, marveling at the craftsmanship. It's beautiful, Finn. I had no idea you could carve like this. My father taught me, said a man should know how to create beautiful things as well as useful ones. He was right. She looked up at him, her heart full. I have something for you too, but it's back at the house. Later, after the Christmas feast had been eaten and the hands had returned to the bunkhouse, Olivia gave Finn her gift, a hand-knitted scarf in deep blue wool that matched his eyes. Helen helped me, she admitted as he wound it around his neck. I'm not the best knitter yet. It's perfect, he insisted, his fingers lingering on the soft yarn. No one's made me anything like this since my mother died. They stood in the parlor, the fire casting a warm glow over everything. Through the window, snow fell silently, insulating them from the world beyond. Olivia, Finn said, his voice low, I've been thinking about what happens when spring comes. Her heart sank. She'd been deliberately avoiding thoughts of spring and what it would mean for her future. I know I should move on, she said. Find my way to Oregon or back east. No, he interrupted. That's not what I meant at all. He took a step closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. I've been saving for land of my own for years. There's a parcel about 10 miles from here, good water, good grazing. Mr. Mathers is helping me make an offer. He took a deep breath. I've been thinking maybe you wouldn't have to leave at all. Olivia's pulse quickened. What are you saying, Finn? I'm saying that I've fallen in love with you, he said, the words tumbling out in a rush. I know it hasn't been that long and maybe it's too soon, but I've never felt this way about anyone. And if you could see your way clear to Olivia didn't let him finish. Rising on tiptoe, she pressed her lips to his in a kiss that answered his unspoken question more eloquently than words ever could. When they finally broke apart, Finn looked stunned but delighted. Is that a yes? To what? She teased. You haven't actually asked me anything. His smile was radiant as he took her hands in his. Olivia Evans, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. Their second kiss was deeper, more confident, filled with promise and possibility. The news of their engagement was met with delight from the Mathers, who had watched their growing attachment with approving eyes. Helen immediately began planning a spring wedding, while Robert helped Finn finalize the purchase of his land. It needs work, Finn told Olivia as they rode out to see the property on a clear January day. The cabin's small and we'll need to build corrals and barns. The cabin was indeed small, just 2 rooms with a stone fireplace, but Olivia could already envision curtains at the windows and a garden by the door. The land rolled gently, with a creek cutting through one corner and enough grass for a modest herd. It's perfect, she declared. Our own place. Finn wrapped his arms around her from behind as they stood looking out over what would soon be their home. I never thought I'd find someone like you, he murmured against her hair, especially not on a lonely stretch of trail. I never thought I'd be grateful for being abandoned and starving, Olivia replied, leaning back against his solid chest. But if that's what it took to find you, I'd do it all again. The winter passed in a flurry of preparations. Finn worked on the cabin whenever he could get away from his duties at the Rocking M, making repairs and adding a lean-to kitchen. Olivia continued keeping the ranch books, but also began collecting household items for their new home: quilts, cooking utensils, and seeds for the garden she planned to plant. Their wedding day dawned clear and mild in early April. Junction City's small church was filled with the Mathers, the ranch hands, and townspeople who had come to know and respect Olivia during her months in the community. Helen had helped Olivia remake one of her own dresses into a simple but elegant wedding gown, trimmed with lace saved from her own wedding outfit. Olivia wore her mother's locket, the only personal item she had managed to keep through her ordeal on the trail. As she walked down the aisle toward Finn, who stood tall and proud in a new suit, Olivia felt her parents' presence strongly. They would have approved of this man. She knew this man who had carried her miles to safety, who had opened his heart to her, who looked at her now as if she were the most precious thing in the world. The preacher's words washed over her, but it was Finn's voice, steady and sure as he spoke his vows, that brought tears to her eyes. I, Finnegan James Turner, take you, Olivia Catherine Evans, to be my lawfully wedded wife. When they were pronounced man and wife, Finn's kiss was tender yet passionate, a promise of all that was to come. The small congregation erupted in cheers and well wishes. The wedding celebration continued at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and food enough for twice their number. As the sun began to set, Finn led Olivia to his waiting wagon, now loaded with their belongings and wedding gifts. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Turner?" he asked, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "More than ready, Mr. Turner," she replied, accepting his hand to climb onto the wagon seat. They drove the 10 miles to their new home in companionable silence, occasionally exchanging glances filled with anticipation and love. When they arrived, Finn insisted on carrying her across the threshold in the traditional manner. Inside, Olivia was surprised to find the cabin transformed. Fresh curtains hung at the windows, a colorful quilt adorned the new bed, and wildflowers filled a pottery vase on the table. "Helen and some of the women from town," Finn explained, seeing her wonder. "They came out yesterday to prepare it for us." Olivia turned in a slow circle, taking in what was now their home. Simple, yes, but filled with possibilities. "What are you thinking?" Finn asked, coming to stand behind her. "I'm thinking how lucky I am," she replied honestly. 7 months ago, I thought my life was over. Now it feels like it's just beginning." Finn turned her gently to face him. "I'm the lucky one," he insisted. "Finding you on that trail was the best thing that ever happened to me." His kiss was gentle at first, then increasingly urgent. As the last light faded from the sky, they gave themselves to each other completely, sealing their vows in the most ancient and intimate way. Later, lying in each other's arms, they spoke of their plans for the future: the cattle Finn would raise, the school Olivia hoped to start eventually, the children they both wanted. "I think I was always meant to come west," Olivia mused, her head resting on Finn's chest. "Not just because my father dreamed of Oregon, but because you were here, waiting, though neither of us knew it." Finn's arm tightened around her. "I'd have waited forever if I'd known what was coming." 5 years later, Olivia stood in the doorway of their expanded home, watching as Finn taught their 3-year-old son James to ride his first pony. Their infant daughter Catherine slept in a cradle nearby, her tiny hands curled into fists. The small cabin had grown into a proper ranch house, as their family and fortunes expanded. Finn's careful management had turned their modest beginning into a thriving operation. While Olivia divided her time between their children and the small school, she ran 3 days a week for neighboring families. Life wasn't always easy. The western frontier demanded hard work and resilience, and there had been setbacks: drought, illness, and the everyday challenges of carving a life from the wilderness. But through it all, the foundation of their love had only strengthened. As she watched, Finn looked up and caught her eye. The smile they exchanged was filled with the depth of understanding that comes only through years of shared joys and sorrows. Later that night, after the children were asleep, they sat together on the porch, watching the stars emerge in the vast prairie sky. Finn's arm was around her shoulders, her head resting against him in a position as familiar and necessary as breathing. "Do you ever think about that day?" Finn asked quietly. "When I found you on the trail?" "Often," Olivia admitted. "I still can't believe you carried me all that way." Finn's fingers traced patterns on her shoulder. "I'd carry you twice as far today." Olivia turned her face up to his, still finding wonder in the love she saw reflected there. "I know you would, and I'd follow you anywhere." Their kiss was sweet with the knowledge of promises kept, and dreams fulfilled, a testament to the journey that had begun with a desperate girl collapsing on a lonely trail, and a cowboy who had walked miles to save her, never knowing he was saving himself as well.